Hello, and welcome to the series Guy Women Around the World, a show where we interview our Guy community to see how they organize their lives. Our Guy microphone traveled all over the world to get all the ins and outs about their daily routines. Are you traveling with us?
Hello everyone and welcome for a new episode of the Guy Women Around the World podcast. For this series, we packed the Guy mic and sent it to different corners of the world to ask women about the ins and outs of their daily routines.
For this episode, the mic traveled all the way to Laura Falcon in Vancouver, Canada. Laura is Senior Project Manager for a mechanical installation company. After obtaining a degree in psychology, she fell into the world of construction. Laura is a wife and loving mom of her 11-year-old son who's in special needs. With a rather dismal healthcare system, a lack of school support, and a very demanding job, organizing is very important to her. So we're very excited to discover more about your daily routine and organization tips. Welcome, Laura.
Welcome, Laura.
Hey, hey.
Hey.
So, Laura, to start things off, can you tell us a bit more about who you are and what you do in your day-to-day life?
I pretty much everything you said. I get up early, as you all know now. I have to get Jonah organized, make lunches. I commute an hour to get to work. We have long days in construction, and then commute home, make dinner. Very, very mundane. Walk in the door, put my apron on, and it stays on pretty much until I go to bed because I don't want to get my work clothes all dirty. And we do homework and everything like that. So, I go from being a senior project manager to basically just your average, house cleaner slash teacher slash problem solver. So it's a long day, and yes, I do need to be very organized.
Yeah, all these mom duties, right, that come on top.
All the mom duties.
There are many.
Okay, in this podcast, we discuss how Guy women around the world organize their lives. In hope we can learn something from each other and be inspired by one another. So, what does a day in your life look like?
That's pretty much what it looks like. I always have my day timer, which is actually downstairs on the counter, open, and I need to make sure I look at the day, look at the week ahead, make sure I've got all my ducks in a row before I leave the house, because if you forget something, you can't come home and get it. There's no turning around. Jonah goes to before and after school care, and then they get on like a little daycare van and go to school. But I actually have two phones that sits on my desk. If I see the school ring, my heart always stops because it's an hour back to the school to get him if something happens. So it can be tough. And so I work, and I have my colleagues at work, and we all get along really well. And then, like I said, I commute home for an hour in Vancouver traffic. And if any ladies out there are from the West Coast, you know how horrendous it is around here. So that's really, that's kind of my alone time. I can sit in my car for an hour and stew on things that I need to stew on, because by the time I get home, there's no time to be ruminating or worrying or anything like that, because I gotta cook, I gotta clean, I gotta pay attention to Jonah, I gotta get him sorted, we gotta do homework. So those are my days. Very early mornings and early nights. I'm usually snoring by about 8 o'clock.
Oh my God, that's a lot. I can imagine that it is not similar to other people around you. How do you experience this?
Yeah, here in Vancouver, everybody commutes in some way, shape, or form. So and where I live, everybody, either they're retired or they work. We all get up and we all funnel onto the highways and we all go to work. And it's very common for two working parents in the Lower Mainland. It's very expensive here. Real estate is astronomical and the cost of living is going up. Another thing we find is common is multi-generational families in the same home. So they tend recently around in our area in Maple Ridge, they build very large houses with no like backyards or anything, because everything it takes up the house, because you've got multi-generations. Two working parents, the grandparents or aunts help look after the children, you know, all of that kind of thing. And that seems to be I would say that, you know, 20 years ago, it was more of a cultural thing where you found multi-generational, but now, honestly, most people do it. A lot of people do it. Even people I work with have parents living in their basement, and it's just to help out is really what it is.
Laura, did
So.
you also give that idea some thought? Because are you living together with your parents, or are you just living together with your husband and your son right now?
No, it's just myself, Jason, my husband, and my son Jonah, and two cats. So, so no, my parents live in a different suburb of Vancouver, which is about a 45-minute to an hour drive from here. So we don't see them as often. They are a little bit older, so there's no hopping in cars and driving through the city. Although, having said that, my father is coming all the way over here today to take Jonah to his field trip today, because we are doing this here instead, so I wasn't able to drive him. So I had to call in what I call a parent favor.
Well, that's really nice that you can really like rely on them when you need them, you know. So
yes,
even though it's not a day-to-day thing, they're there
yes.
when they have to be there. So that's also
yes.
Nice, right?
And I have to do it way ahead of time though, because you would be surprised how busy retired people can be. If I don't get my request in, I'm SOL.
Well, they have their own very busy schedules.
Yes.
And what would you say is typical for the people living in Vancouver when it comes to daily routines, and why?
I did make some notes about this question.
You said already the highway. I can imagine
the commuting as well, so that
commuting.
you all have to commute for quite a while.
Yeah, I would say that everybody commutes. Everybody uses their phones, and I would say for the most part, we're all in the same boat when it comes to, you know, keeping costs down, trying to do our best to budget, and navigate what really is our very busy lives around here. It's it can be very busy. So in the summers, people around here like to be outside a lot because of course the weather is horrendous and we're all stuck inside and we're all so busy and we're constantly commuting in miserable weather. So as soon as the sun comes out, we're all outside. So I think that is across the board. It doesn't matter whether you're a new Canadian or whether you are from the city or from the countryside or the different parts of the province. Everybody kind of subscribes to that type of outdoor lifestyle.
And Laura, what are the typical outdoor activities that you guys do there? Because I can guess that they're a bit different from the ones that we are doing here in Belgium, you know, and maybe also the favorite activities of your family.
Well, for us, we tailor our outdoor activities to Jonah's strengths and weaknesses. So right now we do a lot of camping. We have a trailer that we keep on somebody's property because, again, in Vancouver, space is very limited. A lot of people live in townhouses, so you have to find storage for your RVs. So we pay a yearly fee and it's just down the road. And we do a lot of paddleboarding. We've each got a paddleboard and in the garage. We go to the lakes around here a lot, swimming. We have bikes hanging down in the garage. We go for bike rides. So it is it's a balancing act between what Jonah's physical strengths and limitations are, and basically my work schedule and Jason's work schedule. You know, what can we do that's not super far from home, but still allows us to get outside and get some fresh air. So it is a balancing act. I would say that a lot of people do those activities, but people do also lots of different activities. There's a lot of ATV riding. People go farther afield with their bikes. A lot of people with bike racks, snowboarding, skiing, real hiking, up in the North Shore Mountains. Yeah, snowmobiling, all that kind of stuff. But a lot of those activities are not just not realistic for us. So because of, just our work schedules, and also what Jonah is and isn't comfortable with at this point. Not to say that as he grows and gets older, things won't change, but he likes his schedules and he likes his routines, and he loves being on the water and paddle boards. And so we tend to gravitate towards things that make him happy to keep, and because he's a very happy boy, and that's, as a mother, you always want your child to be happy. So we go to great lengths to do that kind of thing.
I mean, it's nice to be able to escape to nature, I think. I think here we don't have enough of those beautiful lakes to spend our time at. So, I mean, it's something that I'm a bit jealous of.
Yeah, let's move to Vancouver.
So, Laura, especially with your son who does need extra care, I believe it can be quite a challenge to balance your work life and your private life, but also to find time for yourself, because you just told like, okay, the only time I have for myself is this 1 hour I commute back from work in my car. So what for you is the biggest hurdle when it comes to finding this balance?
That is the biggest hurdle, because most of the time it's the lesser of two evils. I am very organized. We have a fridge calendar. I have an old school day timer. I've got 2 phones. I've got my computer, Outlook, work calendar. And Post-its. So all of that stuff helps keep me organized so that I can have a little bit of downtime. And whether that's on my commute in the morning or on my commute on the way home, it means that I'm not running. What it means is I'm not running around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to remember, oh my goodness, I got to stop at this store and get that. Oh my goodness, I got to stop at that store and get that. That's what organization means to me. It's keeping all of my ducks in a row so that I can be prepared. I can pick things up from the store when I'm already at the store, whether it's super random and for something 2 months down the road, I'm going to do it, and I squirrel it away. And my husband always makes fun of me for that. He's like, why did you get this? Well, I'm going to need it in 2 months. Well, why didn't you just get it in 2 months? Well, because I like to be organized.
I mean, that's efficiency, right? Imagine you run out of something very important in your household and we're all like, oh no, So I guess it's a good characteristic.
Yeah, I'm stocked, absolutely.
So, and then Laura, when it comes to prioritizing your time, because I think a lot of your time is built around your son and your work life, but are you personally happy with this balance that you find between everything, between yourself, between your family, and between your work? Or are there some things you would like to do different or see different?
That's tough to answer. If I answer it absolutely and completely honestly, it sounds terrible, because the truth is I don't really have what I would consider a good work-life balance. That doesn't mean people looking in from the outside don't see me having a work-life balance, but I think as a mother, I'm always struggling in myself to be the perfect mom and give Jonah everything he needs. But at the same time, my position at work, I'm always needed. It's constant. My phone is always ringing, texting, emails, everything. So even when I am out and if I have appointments with Jonah at Children's Hospital, the phone is still ringing. And most of the time, the guys that work for me are very good. And I just explain to them and I'm just honest with them about it. But, people, when they're under pressure, especially in the building industry, in construction, pressure can be very intense. And so sometimes I do have to say, Joan, I just need you to sit here for a minute and I have to help those guys out because they're looking for help from me. And I can't just tell them to go away. It just doesn't work like that. Construction, the building's going to keep going whether I help them or not. So my job is to help them move forward with their job, but I'm also a mother. I need to help Jonah move forward with his life as well. So it can be a tough go.
So you feel that the construction world is still a real men's world and men don't understand 100% or don't understand to court what it is to be a woman and to work in this kind of work?
I think that a lot of them aren't trying to not understand, but
trying to not understand.
Old habits die hard. I think old habits die hard. And as much as things change in business, they still stay the same. So I was kind of thinking about that question because I don't want anybody to think that it isn't changing. I've been in this industry for a lot of years, and it is different now than it was back then. But if I were to sort of step back and think about it objectively, and I kind of thought about my colleagues in my office, I also thought about the people I interact with out in the field, and also the clients that we have, the people I interact with on a daily basis, the client foreman and all that kind of stuff. So most of the time, they're men. And I'd say about half of them also have parental responsibilities. And there are some of them I do have the ability to talk about our kids with and have, that kind of polite conversation. But when it comes to the women that I interact with, every single one of us has parental responsibilies. Every single one of us. For the gentlemen that I interact with, I'd say maybe 50%. And I actually, ironically, I have recently one of the foremen I interact with most for a big client of ours. He just came back from parental leave. So they introduced that, and some of the younger guys do share parental leave here with their wives, which is a whole new ballgame because that never happened 15, 20 years ago. Never. Ever.
So we're making steps, I think, in that, but I guess we still have a way to go.
A long way.
It's still a long way to go. That's true.
Yeah, we're making steps. I mean, come the summertime now, like I said, everybody likes to get out, but I'll tell you what the guys around us like to do. They golf. That's what they do. So in construction, once May comes around, pretty much every Friday, the office empties out and they're all on the golf course. All our clients are on the golf course. The phone will literally stop ringing by 11 o'clock in the morning and you won't hear a peep from anybody because they're all out on the golf course. And what's left behind is us chickens, is what I call it. Just us chickens holding down the fort. So it's kind of funny like that. So they do golfing, they go on fishing trips, they do all this kind of stuff, and the ladies stay behind and hold down the fort and look after the kids. And so, like I said, as much as things change, which they do, they still stay the same to some extent, because if those guys are all out golfing and on fishing trips, someone has to stay behind and look after their families, because they're not all single swinging gentlemen out there. They have families, they have wives, so someone's looking after the kids, but it's not them.
So for you, being a woman in this different for you to plan and organize everything together with your family because you are in a more, let's say, disadvantaged position compared to men?
To some extent, I do have to be more assertive. If I want time off, I just have to be more assertive about it. Also, I have the day timer. I have the day timer on my desk. If you walk around my office to see the gentlemen, who are all very, very kind and very, very likable individuals, none of them have day timers sitting on their desk with all their children's stuff written in it. I do though, because moms do. That's just how it is. And traditionally, the moms have always been the ones to look after the children. Now, I'm not saying that's not changing, because it is, like I said. And my husband does a lot. He takes a lot of afternoons off to pick up Jonah, and he takes days off when he's sick, and he contributes just as much to his care, but in a different way. I'm the organized one, and I tell him what days or what needs to happen.
He follows your schedule.
So I don't know if it's because I'm just he likes to be organized, but I think that women are typically better at multitasking anyways. But no, I couldn't do this without him stepping in and helping. And I do find that he is in the minority, because I don't quite see that as often as I would like in other areas, like in my office or even out in the field. And even he talks about how the people he works with in his workplace, he's literally the only one that spends a lot of time with his son.
So you remain a particular case, but really congratulations that together you can manage. Finally, it's that the result is there. You organize it and you just do it. The two of you together.
Yeah.
Great. Now, in general, in your country, what do you think? How people could improve the quality of life?
Oh my goodness, we work way too much over here. We work a lot, long days, long hours. I mean, already I commute 2 hours a day. My days are 9 hours, long days. I honestly, isn't it France who brought in or someone's bringing it over there in Europe, a 4-day work week? Someone's trying to bring that in. I don't remember what country that is. Or is that just people talking on social media and wishful thinking? Because I think a 4-day work week would be fabulous. It really would help, honestly, because like I said, I've got all of these things, lists, post-its everywhere to try and stay organized. There's always something. And imagine if you had an extra day off just to get some of your chores done, and then you wouldn't spend your entire weekend cleaning and cooking and laundry, and which I do. I mean, holy cow. Holy cow.
More days off, in fact, more holidays, more free days during the week that you sometimes can do something for yourself. That would be a solution.
Absolutely. And I think that is part of the problem. We all work too much around here. And we commute. I don't even commute that far. It's just traffic is horrendous, and it just takes so much time. And I think sometimes that daily grind gets people down. I know it does for me, and especially here where, come December, it's dark at 4:00, and then it doesn't get light again until like 8:30 the next day. And I leave for work and it's dark, and I get home and it's dark. I don't see my backyard except on the weekends because it's just dark anytime I'm home. And that's pretty common. And I think that gets people down around here. And that's why as soon as the sun comes out, we love to get outside. And I just feel that we work too much. And I just find that when it's dark, when I leave for work, and dark when I get home, I just think, boy, that's just too much dark. I shouldn't have to leave in the dark and come home in the dark. I wanted to do something else.
Yeah. And are you able to work at home? So remote, are you allowed to do so?
Yes, I am. Construction, though, it's still a lot of face-to-face. I still got to put in that FaceTime. And I also, I don't know if you can see from the podcast here, but I'm not really set up to have the huge, office space. It's just people, for the most part, just don't have that kind of space in their houses. So when I'm working from home, I have like this tiny little screen. But when I'm at work, I've got, these big screens that I can work from.
For building,
looking at drawings. Yeah, and I don't know about you, but my eyes are not what they used to be. So I'm always having to make things bigger so I can see them. And it's hard to do that on one computer screen. And so I like to be at work. I'm more productive at work. But when necessary, like for instance, today, I will be working from home because I will be going to pick up Jonah from his field trip later on this afternoon. And just the sheer amount of commuting around here, I can get more work done staying from home on a tiny little computer screen than I do driving around Hell's Half Acre, the Lower Mainland, trying to fight my way through traffic from the jobs, from work to home to get John. It's just, it's just
a lot of lost time.
I think for a lot of people, men or women, this remote work at least one day a week is really a solution, a relief to have at least one day that you just can start in the morning with all the traffic jams and so on. And you have your commuting time in surplus. That's the topic. Plus, you have the home feeling. You don't have to be dressed up like otherwise. And it's just more comfy time.
More relaxing.
More relaxing. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Laura, I would like to finish with one last question. So what would be your best advice that you can give to like all these busy women around the world when it comes to organization?
My best advice is try and make things as easy for yourself as possible. Don't be afraid of drive-throughs, for coffees and bagels. Don't be afraid to tell people no. I'm really sorry. I would love to help you today, but I just can't. And always carry a day timer with you. I know everyone is stuck on their phones and I get that. But at 48, I didn't grow up with that kind of technology. So I learned how to do things and writing it down, which I find is a lost art. I think that having a day timer in your purse or your work bag is important to keep yourself organized. And don't be too hard on yourself if you miss or forget something. And I drink a lot of coffee in the morning because the truth is that no matter how many things I use to organize myself, if my brain is fuzzy, there's no amount of day timers is going to help that. I need my coffee. And I do have a glass of red wine when I come home. So to relax, but use the time you are alone. And whether that's like me on my commute, I get it. Traffic sucks. And sometimes people don't like being stuck in it, especially around here. It's an Olympic sport. I'm telling you, driving in rush hour traffic, it takes a very special skill. But look at it differently. I started looking at it differently and looking at it as my downtime. There's nobody else in the car.
Yeah.
So turn your music up, use it to work your way through some of things. If you're angry from something at work, use that 1 hour to try and calm yourself down. So when time you get home, you are more focused on what needs to be done. If you're focused on what needs to be done, then you're organized. If you're bringing work things home and stressing out about them, you're not organized and you're not focused and things are not going to get done. And it will always come back to haunt you eventually. So, yeah, that's what I've started doing. And otherwise, I'm never alone, not even in the bathroom. There is no personal space. None.
Make from your commuting time decompressing time. That's the way.
Exactly.
You must try to do it.
Laura, thank you so much for having shared all these insights and for this beautiful and honest talk with us. I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Yes, I'm very nervous. I set it up a little differently, so I was farther away from the camera, so you couldn't see me sweat. I put a bunch.
You did an amazing job. Okay.
We are just women under each other, so.
So a big thank you, Laura.
Yeah.
Okay. And see you soon. Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.